Amy, you only went to high school in the States? Yeah, I was preparing for college, but due to Dad's situation, I couldn't continue. I remember it being really tough. I chuckled a bit, recalling the rush when Dad suddenly got assigned to work in Switzerland. Wait, what? Amy, you're just a high school graduate? I seriously thought you had a college degree. I feel duped. Excuse me, John? My name is Amy. I got married at 27 and we've been newlyweds for just a month. I met my husband John through work. Not in the same office, but I was at the company where John came as a sales representative. He said he took a liking to me at first sight and pursued me. Given his sales background, he was really good at talking. Before I knew it, we were dating. Within just 3 months of dating, he proposed to me passionately, saying he didn't want anyone else to have me. Shockingly, within just 6 months of meeting, we decided to get married. Many advised us to take it slow. Maybe my long stint living in Switzerland influenced me, but I always preferred passionate people over calm ones. I genuinely loved John, who pursued me aggressively and proposed with such fervor. I believed he was the one for me. Sure, we didn't know much about each other, but that didn't matter. We felt it was enough just to be together and didn't care about a wedding ceremony. We registered our marriage the day after a family meeting and started living together. All I know about John is where he works and that he has a family of 4, his parents and a younger sister. Likewise, John probably doesn't know much about me either. There are things we wish the other knew, but we decided it's more fun to learn about each other gradually. However, both our parents requested we have a wedding. They told us it's a rite of passage, even if it's a small ceremony. Unable to decline, we began planning with the intention of fulfilling our duty to our parents. We planned for a small restaurant wedding, just for the family. Still, we were flabbergasted to find out both our parents became close, and were planning a grand wedding without our knowledge. Nevertheless, John said, "If both our parents want it, let's do it." I had no choice but to agree. While I don't like complications, once I'm committed, I need to do things thoroughly. I meticulously checked details like invitations and welcome boards, ensuring everything was perfect. John laughed at the steadily finished pieces, saying, "Typical Amy, everything's so precise and warm." That praise made my day. It was during our wedding preparations. Our wedding planner, Lily, asked us to write down our profiles. We filled out the given forms with details, like where we were born and the elementary schools we graduated from. Lily glanced at my paperwork and looked surprised. "Amy, you only went to high school in the States?" "Yeah, I was preparing for college, but due to Dad's situation, I couldn't continue. I remember it being really tough." It was a sudden memory of Dad's abrupt assignment to Switzerland that made me chuckle a bit. "Wait, what? Amy, you're just a high school graduate? I seriously thought you had a college degree. I feel duped." "What did you say, John?" He didn't even acknowledge me. After handing his completed profile to Lily, he abruptly left, even though we were in the middle of our meeting. All we could do was stare, dumbfounded at John's retreating back. What on earth had just happened? Thankfully, the day's meeting was mainly about confirmations, so I handled the rest by myself. Rushing home, I was relieved to see lights on in the house. Entering, I overheard John on the phone. "Yeah, can you believe it? A high school graduate in this day and age. I thought I snagged a top-notch woman from a good place because she's attractive and competent at work, but she's just a high school graduate. Our kids would definitely get ridiculed. I wonder if her being so nitpicky is her way of compensating for her lack of intelligence," he said, laughing out loud. While we did marry soon after meeting, we had never discussed our educational backgrounds. I had no idea John had such an elitist view. Had I known, I wouldn't have married him. I decided to test John's character without revealing my actual education. Even if knowing my background brought us back together, if there's any future incident where my values don't align with John's, being looked down upon and living in fear isn't worth it. If that's the case, he's not the one for me. "I'm home!" I opened the living room door, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. John wrapped up his call, telling the person he'd call back. He then looked at me with cold, condescending eyes. "Ugh, I've been thoroughly deceived by Amy. Guess you wanted to land a high-caliber guy like me with his high education. Bet you're pleased with yourself." "I didn't even know about your educational background. Remember? We agreed to get to know each other more." You could easily find out. I graduated from a prestigious university. Agreeing to marry this quickly, in hindsight, is suspicious. This side of John was shocking, so mean-spirited. I loved his passion, but I never imagined he could be this impulsive and prejudiced. Deciding to check with my parents, I called home, only to find out they were hosting a party with parents-in-law. It's great that our families get along so well, but at this rate, our marriage was headed for disaster. I quickly relayed today's events to my dad over the phone and mentioned we might not go through with the wedding. I thought I told John about our family being stationed in Switzerland. Yes, I had mentioned living in Switzerland, and Lily had said, in America, it's just up to high school. So it's baffling how John associated that with just being a high school graduate. Plus, it's utterly disrespectful to those who work after high school or had circumstances that kept them from further studies. On the other end, it sounded like my parents and John's parents were having quite a party, with a lot of laughing. Anyway, I want to continue assessing John's character, so I'd appreciate it if they played along with the misunderstanding. I wasn't sure how much got through to the inebriated party, but John rarely contacts my parents, so it should be fine. After that, I tried to carry on with life as usual, but John's condescending attitude was palpable. He stopped doing chores. Previously, we'd share the tasks, but now everything fell on me. If I asked for help, he'd shoot back, "Do you want a divorce? Be grateful a high-spec guy like me even married a lowly high school grad like you." I felt increasingly repulsed by John, who frequently referred to himself as high-spec. On top of that, he dumped all wedding and honeymoon planning on me. John argued, "Given my high educational background, I have a demanding job. You, with your simple clerical tasks due to your education, surely have more time." And just like that, he stopped contributing to anything. Even though I earn slightly more than John, it seems like he's gotten something twisted in his head. Between work, household chores, and wedding preparations, I felt so overwhelmed. I worried I might collapse from exhaustion. The more I saw of John's behavior, the more I grew to despise him. But we were already legally married, and I had made promises to our parents. Once the wedding was over, we planned to sit down with both sets of parents to discuss our educational backgrounds and how we intended to live as a married couple. Though it's up to us to decide our future, right now our tempers and emotions are flaring. We need to calm down and focus on rebuilding our relationship. Since we've come together as a couple, it's essential not to hastily choose divorce. Holding on to that promise, I'm enduring our current situation. And then the long-awaited wedding day arrived. I felt guilty towards our parents, but truth be told, the spark in our marriage had already fizzled out. However, on that particular day, we played the part of a loving couple, greeting our family and work acquaintances with big smiles. Given the significant business ties, several high-ranking executives expressed their desire to attend, so we had sent out invitations. Looking back, I deeply regretted inviting them to a wedding of a couple on the brink of divorce. The guilt was overwhelming. "Amy, it's been a while," said Sam, John's predecessor, as he approached. "Long time no see. Thanks for coming," I replied. "Amy, I know it's not the best time, but is everything okay with John?" "What do you mean?" "Well, he mentioned you in a recent phone call, and I got concerned." "Is this about the high school graduate thing?" "Yes, I knew about your education in Switzerland and tried to gently correct him, but he wouldn't listen." So, Sam was the one John had been talking to. How could John speak so negatively about his wife, especially to someone from a business partner's company? As I chatted with Sam, other colleagues from John's company approached, showing concern. It seemed John had been bad-mouthing me a lot, and one of his bosses even told me directly that he couldn't support our marriage. Given that I'm being told this at our wedding, John must be making many uncomfortable at work, and they were all concerned for me. Seeing me surrounded by his colleagues, an annoyed John called out to me in a displeased tone. "Amy, it's time! Can't you even manage your time properly?" John scolded. I silently followed behind him, my emotions concealed. I doubt we appeared happy, even up close. I had hesitantly told my friends about our marital issues and suggested they might not want to attend the reception. Still, they insisted, wanting to be there for me. A few even flew in from Switzerland, and their tables decorated with a Swiss touch. were a topic of interest among the guests. The wedding ceremony concluded without a hitch, and the reception began. Our bosses from both sides gave their welcoming speeches. Following a toast, the meals were served. Yet, throughout it all, John kept a sour expression and just kept drinking his alcohol. "John, that's enough drinking," I said, trying to intervene. Drunk and agitated, John blurted out, "It's all Amy's fault! I had this perfect life planned out. We'd have these amazing hybrid kids, be the envy of everyone, and now..." Suddenly, he got up, snatched the microphone from the host, and started ranting. "Hello, everyone! Thank you for being here. I'm a high-spec guy, having graduated from a top university. Yet, here I am, tricked into marrying a mere high school graduate. But since we're married, I'll try to educate her best I can." The room fell silent. John, seemingly expecting applause, looked around in confusion. Then my boss Daniel stood up and took the microphone. "John, are you talking about our Amy? It's funny, after finishing high school here, she went to Switzerland for college due to her father's job assignment. By the way, the head of our US branch rose from being a high school graduate. Is your company's philosophy to look down on such people? Studied in Switzerland?" John seemed to snap out of his drunken state instantly, staring at Daniel in shock. "Amy, is that true?" "Yes, I kept it a secret, but after graduating high school in the US, I went to Switzerland for college. I successfully graduated and even secured a job there, but due to a transfer to our US branch, I returned home with my family." "By the way," Daniel continued, holding the mic, "our US branch's CEO is a high school graduate who's worked their way up. Is John's opinion in line with your company's policies?" As Daniel glanced over at the groom's side with the microphone, John's colleagues uniformly shouted out, "No!" Given our company's superior standing, those from John's side were visibly panicking. Filled with rage, John confronted me. "Amy, why didn't you tell the truth? You've made me a laughingstock. We've never talked about our educational backgrounds, remember? And it's pretty disrespectful and presumptuous to look down on high school graduates." I responded, "It's all Amy's fault." John, stomping on the ground like a child, angrily blamed me. As I felt a wave of fear, sudden laughter erupted from a table nearby. It was that group of foreigners. In their unique accented English, they exclaimed, "Amy, you sure found a character! But seriously, divorce him as soon as possible." Blaming Amy? Huh, that's just hilarious! Their laughter was contagious, and soon the entire hall was in stitches, with everyone gazing at John and laughing till tears flowed. Humiliated, John's face turned beet red and he fled from the venue. I could see our in-laws chasing after him. He'd surely be caught soon. After that incident, Lily advised me to leave. The reception was cut short. My parents and in-laws, with assistance from relatives, returned the wedding gifts, apologizing to the attendees, and even provided transportation fare. That night, instead of returning to my place, I went back to my childhood home. The next day, since both Dad and I had taken a leave, we went together to pick up some belongings from our home. Even my parents, who usually hope for the best, didn't push for reconciliation this time. They apologized for previously wanting us to make up. They probably hadn't realized just how twisted John had become. When I got home, John greeted me with a wide smile. "Amy, sorry for leaving early yesterday. I've thought about it. If you're not just a high school graduate, there's no issue. Let's live happily like we used to. I'll help around the house, and I miss the meals you make." His words and smile were reminiscent of our early days together. But this different John, so different from the past few months, was actually frightening. You expect me to just forget everything? I can't be with someone who's so prejudiced about education. I'll divorce you and claim compensation for all the verbal abuse you've thrown at me, including the wedding costs. What? We're not getting divorced. It's not my fault I didn't know. You should have told me. Now I feel like I should be the one claiming compensation. John, during our family meetings, we mentioned Amy lived in Switzerland from 18 till she started working. What did you think she was doing in Switzerland all those years? Well, the planner said she only went up to high school. In America, she only attended up to high school. That's what was said. You can't be vague like that. You should have clearly said she studied in Switzerland. So you're saying we didn't provide enough information? Exactly. You need to explain things clearly. If we need to explain everything from A to Z and you don't try to understand the context or ask questions, then every time you don't like what's being said, will my daughter always get verbally abused by you? I'm sorry, but we're taking her back. We can't leave her in a place where we know she'll get hurt. No, wait! It's just a typical marital spat. There's no need for divorce now. I do care about Amy, and there's no reason for me to hurt her anymore. John's tone started to waver as my dad firmly suggested divorce. You might have decades together, but with different values, many issues will arise. There'll always be a reason for you to hurt her. Amy, let's go. Upon my dad's command, I quickly packed the essentials. John kept insisting that everything was fine and that they wouldn't divorce. Yet, anyone who looks down on others doesn't align with my values. It's that simple. Leaving a tearful John behind, I walked away from our home. I couldn't help but wonder, if he was so against the divorce that it brought him to tears, why did he continuously hurl such harsh words at me? Eventually, with the help of lawyers, the divorce was finalized and I was granted the compensation I had asked for. Even after the divorce, my parents remained close with my former in-laws. They often had parties at our place. One time, John's name came up in a conversation. He had continued his condescending behavior, both during the wedding reception and at work. This, combined with the distrust he caused with business partners, led his company to conclude that he didn't fit their values. As a result, he was moved away from any promotional path to a less significant role. Having always been prideful, he immediately handed in his resignation and left. Now he's working a part-time job. He's repeatedly mentioned wanting to move back home and promised to repay all the compensation money he owes. However, they've told him not to return until he's settled his debts. Despite this, they say he calls them nearly every day. According to my former in-laws, John had been pretty average throughout college. But during his job hunting days, he noticed a wealthy friend, who had attended a more prestigious state university than him, easily land a job at a major company through connections. Witnessing this made John believe that in the world, education, money, and connections were all that mattered, leading him to adopt a skewed perspective. Being among the more educated in his company, he received praise from his colleagues, which apparently didn't help. He began looking down on others, which led to the current situation. While John might have his reasons, the loss of important values like compassion and respect for others is his own responsibility. Unless he addresses his flawed character, he'll likely repeat the same mistakes wherever he goes. Not that it's my concern anymore. Recently, my company proposed that I return to our headquarters in Switzerland. Although my parents wish to stay in the US, after some contemplation, I've decided to start fresh and live alone in Switzerland. I spent my youth there, and in some ways, I feel more at home there than in the US. With an expected pay raise and the allure of potentially finding a new love, I'm hoping to find happiness once more.